Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Wolfpacker Show. My name's Ethan McDowell. I am here with Noah Fleischman. We're here to talk a little Wolfpack football after a dominant Noah. And yes, that's right. I said dominant win for the Wolfpack at Carter Finley Stadium yesterday. NC State picked up a 59-28 win over Stanford, improving to 5-4 on the year. It's their second conference victory in a row as well. For the first time this year, Noah, NC State's on a winning streak. It had been, alternating wins and losses, and then a couple losses in the middle of the season there. And the Pack is finally stringing some momentum together. And believe it or not, it's coming after a bye week. Once again, the Pack put together one of its best performances of the season off of a bye week. Why that continues to happen, I don't really have an answer for it. I don't think anyone really does. But hey, they looked phenomenal against Stanford, at least offensively. And we're going to spend a lot of time talking about that side of the ball, what's going right for the Pack offensively right now. And spoiler alert there, mostly CJ Bailey being pretty freaking good right now. But we're going to dive all the way into that. But before we do, just a quick mention that we're both reporters for the Wolfpacker.com. That's NC State site on the On3 network. Whether you're looking for football analysis, basketball news, game coverage of the basketball games this week, full coverage of the banner raisings at Lenovo Center and Reynolds Coliseum. It's all on the Wolfpacker.com. Noah and I will be at all of that stuff, and we're writing up a ton of stuff. And in addition to that, there's going to be plenty of recruiting stuff going on. And of course, there are 3 more football games at least to be played this season. And the Wolfpacker.com is the best place to find all of that. Right now, you can get an annual subscription for 50% off. It comes out to a little under $5 a month, which is an outstanding deal. Tough to find a better deal than that in terms of, college sports, blogs and websites. I think that's about as good as it gets. So go check out the Wolfpacker.com, and you'll get access to all of these scoops, analysis, and our message board community. All right, Noah, let's talk some football. 59-28. NC State hangs 21 points on Stanford in the third quarter, 17 in the second quarter to really blow this game wide open. It was back and forth for a little while there with Stanford and NC State kind of trading scores, but the Pack was in control for most of this game. We got to watch backups for most of the fourth quarter. Right off the bat, just wanted to get your initial reaction to what was a authoritative 31-point win for the Pack.
Yeah, it was a statement win. It was a win that they needed. They scored 9 straight possessions to open the game. That was 8 touchdowns, 1 field goal. Every time the starters were on the field. Once they came off, the backups were in. It didn't go as well. But, NC State needed a win like this. It needed to have an easy time. And it was for the most part. After the defense finally figured out a way to get some stops, in the second quarter, it really opened up the floodgates for NC State's offense. That was rolling. CJ Bailey, as we talked about, probably had his best game of his career at NC State. It's a small sample size, Ethan, but every week I think we're saying that, and I think it's justified at this point. 18 of 20, 234 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. No turnovers. Only 2 turnover-worthy plays by the quarterback, both of them. One was an incompletion. One was a nice catch in the end zone by Justin Jolie. And, this man is playing really, really well. But NC State's running game also played really, really well. Complete effort. 40 carries, 281 yards, 5 touchdowns. That's 2 100-yard games from Jordan Waters, Hollywood Smothers. Everything was clicking, Ethan. It's what we like to see, especially at this point of the year. NC State struggled, gets to a bye week. The magic potion is drank, and it's a different-looking team when they come out of it. Granted, Stanford's not the best of defenses it's going to see. It's really the worst defense it probably will see the rest of the year. It doesn't matter. They just got to go execute, and that's exactly what they did.
Well, that you mentioned it. Like, this was Stanford. Stanford is the worst defense in the ACC. They're the only team in the ACC giving up more points per game going into this contest than NC State. They're giving up a little over 31 points per matchup. And, they've lost 5 straight. Like, this season's really unraveling for Stanford. This was not a great opponent that NC State was doing all this to. But NC State has struggled against bad teams this year. Wake Forest isn't good. They struggled against them to get consistent offense going. Louisiana Tech isn't good. Same deal. So we saw NC State dominate, at least offensively. We'll dive into the defense a little more later. But offensively, They dominated a bad defense. And that's something we hadn't really seen from this team this season since week one even. So that was a positive step in the right direction for the Pack without a doubt. And you mentioned, I think it starts with the running game. Jordan Waters, 5 carries for 115 yards and 2 touchdowns. That is obviously very much helped by a 94-yard touchdown run. I remember thinking to myself when they got the ball at the 6, and they were in the middle of that 9 straight score mark. I was like, man, I don't know. It's going to be tough for them to extend the scoring streak here. And then they rip it off in one play. And he was running great. I thought he was breaking tackles, getting to the second level, and showing that home run hitting ability that folks were so excited about him bringing to the Pack. And then Hollywood led the team by far, which is noteworthy. I think that is noteworthy. And I haven't pulled up the snap counts, but he was certainly the feature back of this offense. He was playing way more than anyone else, and he had 16 carries for 100 yards and 2 scores. Also ripped off a 52-yard touchdown run. I mean, Stanford couldn't tackle NC State's running backs. They really struggled in that department.
They did. NC State's running backs forced 24 missed tackles in the game. Hollywood Smothers had 9 of those. Jordan Waters, I believe, 6. Casey had 5 as a running back, and Casey only ran the ball a couple of times. And yes, as you said, Jalen Smothers, 43 snaps of the 54 possible at running back. He was definitely the featured back, especially without Kendrick Raphael. They leaned on him heavily. Jordan Waters, Ethan, we talk about having a breakout game. Let's put it in perspective. Game 1 against Western Carolina, 124 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns. We thought, all right, this is Jordan Waters they expect to see. From that day until they played Stanford, Jordan Waters had 46 carries for 136 yards and no touchdowns in between. Then he comes out, has 115 yards, 5 carries, 2 touchdowns. It clicked, and he talked about, it wasn't the best of stretches for him, but he finally found a way, and it worked out. But yeah, overall, the running backs played extremely well. Hollywood Smothers continued what he's doing best. And Ethan, it's just kind of what we anticipated seeing from NC State, in the preseason. And it finally came together a little bit later than everyone expected and would have hoped for, but better late than never.
Yeah, definitely. And it's not like we're not sitting here talking like we were expecting to see a 59-point game every single week in and week out, but we were expecting to see 59-point games against bad defenses. And that's what we saw today. So I thought this was just another consistent step forward and from an offense that is on a very, very strong upward trajectory. And I want to use that to dive into our CJ Bailey conversation because Noah, it's normal to see a freshman taking steps forward the more playing time they get. I'm not sure it's normal to see a freshman improving this much. From where CJ was when he came in, the 3rd game of the season, third game of the year, to now, I mean, now he's probably going to make the true freshman All-American team. I don't think there's a better freshman quarterback than CJ Bailey in the country right now. 18 for 20 and 234, 0 turnovers. He is improving so much. He's making plays in structure. He's making the pre-snap reads that he was working through earlier in his short career so far. And he's also improvising extremely well. His touchdown pass to Justin Jolie in the end zone was phenomenal. The way he extended that play and waited for one of his really good playmakers to get open was phenomenal. So Noah, I'm kind of running out of words to compliment CJ's play because he has been really, really good.
Yeah, he has. I think he's definitely going to win true freshman, quarterback All-American right now, the way he's playing football. And I think he's going to make a case for the ACC Rookie of the Year as well, the way he is playing football in ACC play especially. And you talk about that pass to Justin Jolie. Ethan, he looked to his right originally for the first read, wasn't there. Rolled left, waiting for KC to get open. He's double-teamed, not there. He then turns back, looks like he's going to take off and run from the 15-yard line, try to score that way. At the last second, sees Jolie find a window between 2 defenders, throws across his body, and makes the touchdown. It was one of the more impressive throws we've seen from him this year. And I think it is a combination of what he did over the bye week, which he said it was studying himself, but also becoming more decisive. That is really what has caused him issues, is being antsy, as he calls it, and throwing interceptions. He's thrown 4 picks this year. A lot of those have just become, he forces a ball in that's not going to work. Now he's being more patient. He's letting the play develop, and he's trusting himself. And I think that's really, really important. But 18 of 20, as we said, fewest incompletions of any FBS quarterback this weekend that had attempted at least 12 passes. I mean,
That's a wild stat.
this is a guy who's playing in his 5th career start. He's been thrown into a couple of games due to injury, but Ethan, this guy's come a long way since his 13 of 20 days against Louisiana Tech and Northern Illinois, and that's only a few weeks ago. And in reality, right, that's a short time frame. And a college football season is really weird and really exciting, and a million things happen. And this is a guy who has nearly 70% completion rate now for his freshman year. That's just an astounding number. Anyone who would take this from any kind of player that you had. And I also need to give props to the offensive line. He was only sacked twice, only was pressured a couple of times. And he really was able to get the ball out fast and play well. And so I think this is something that NC State wants to keep moving. They play Duke next week, better defense than what he saw this weekend, and we'll see how he can play against that team. But overall, I think it's just a big confidence boost for a guy like CJ Bailey, making it look easy, making it look like he was in high school again. I think that's kind of what it looked like this weekend. He was running the show, was confident, and he's 18, 19 years old.
You mentioned that he's trusting himself. He's also just trusting his receivers. I mean, he's letting folks go up and make plays. He threw a touchdown to Keenan Jackson, another fellow true freshman, where he let the 6'3" freshman go up and win a jump ball, because that's what he's good at. And CJ knows that. He put the ball in a spot where he had a shot to win it. He's throwing 50-50 balls to Justin Jolie because Justin Jolie catches all of them. He's giving folks a chance to make those plays and, stretching the field a little bit more. And you're right. He just looks more confident. He looks more just assured in his decision-making. He's not putting the ball in harm's way at all. And for a quarterback that's asked to do as much as he is right now, it's not like he's just playing like a point guard role here. He is, creating his own plays and doing a great job. So I think if you're a Wolfpack fan, you have to be over the moon about how he's looking. He's the future of this team.
He is, and I think the more impressive thing is we're seeing them throw the ball more. Throwing the ball 20 times, throwing it 36 times last week. This is an offense that is complex, right? And what Robin and I runs, and they do different things. They ran the ball a ton this weekend because it was working. But he's trusting CJ Bailey, and that says a lot about this freshman quarterback with an offensive coordinator who's been around the block. He's worked with different guys. He's not a coordinator that would just do something to do something. You really have to earn his trust. And we've seen it with receivers get pulled out of a game on one drop. We've seen it on running backs with a fumble. CJ's proved that he belongs. And I think that's really, really important. It's also important to do it in a year where he's surrounded by young talent. And I think that's also important. That not only is he playing well, there's redshirt freshmen playing well next to him. And a guy like Hollywood Smothers or Noah Rogers, this true freshman like Keenan Jackson, as you mentioned. I mean, not only is this a bright for NC State's future at quarterback, this is bright for NC State's future in the offense, period.
Yep. Yeah, that's what I wrote about after the game. We asked Dave Dorn about it in his post-game press conferences. Just like seeing this group improve as much as it has. I mean, and, Dave Dorn said that's what they do at NC State. They develop players, and we're seeing this group really, really develop. And, I wrote earlier this fall after one of the losses, comparing the 2019 season to this year, not in me thinking that it was going to get as, rough as that 2019 season was, but on that 2019 team, you had the same players that had the chance to win 10 games in 2021 and, were the really, really good team in 2022 as well, right? Like you had Devin Leary on that team, Bam Knight, like a ton of playmakers on that offense. And I think you're seeing a similar sort of deal here where the potential is there. You can see how if this core stays together, the sky's the limit for this group. You mentioned they were throwing the ball a little bit more. And then, he only threw the ball 20 times, which I think folks that just look at the box score will say like, oh, he didn't throw the ball that much. 17 attempts of those were in the first half. He only threw the ball 3 times in the second half, and still added a touchdown to that total too. Did not throw an incompletion in the second half. So
yeah, I mean, he completed 14 in a row to end his day. So
just a phenomenal game for him. Just about as efficient as you can get. But yeah, I mean, the younger players on this team just look special, man. They look really, really good. I thought Hollywood Smothers, he's showing that it's not just, a couple of games where he got hot. He's on fire now. 3 straight games with 100 or more total offensive yards. He's explosive, runs through tackles, and when he's at the second level, you're not going to catch him. So I think you can look at this offense and you clearly have the running back of the future, the quarterback of the future. I think you have several wide receivers of the future. We haven't mentioned Terrell Anderson yet. He's someone that's just continuing to make plays. I think he's someone the staff loves, and he's just going to continue to take steps forward. And there's just so much young talent on this team, man. And I am really encouraged by what we saw offensively in this game. Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about the defense, though. It was a up and down game for that unit. Starts really, really strong, Noah. NC State comes out, strip sack by Davin Vann. It is his 5th forced fumble of the year. He leads the country in forced fumbles. And he just with that sack as well, he tied his career high for sacks, which is a milestone for him with 3 games still to play at least. So you're looking at he's probably going to have a career year. He has been so disruptive this season, and I think one of the main bright spots of this team. Other than that, it got a little dicey at points, Noah. I mean, Ashton Daniels, Stanford's quarterback, ran 11 times for 129 yards, and that included a couple of explosive touchdowns. And the rushing defense struggled. Overall, just struggled. They carried the ball 39 times for 225, 3 scores, and that's an average of 5.8 yards per carry. Before Ashton Daniels got hurt, that offense was moving. So just wanted to get your thoughts on the defense on the side of a ball that made some plays with a couple of forced turnovers, but otherwise struggled at points.
it did. If you told me that Stanford is going to run the ball for 225 yards and 3 touchdowns, I'd probably say it's not going to go well for NC State, but it helps when NC State's offense ran the ball well. The defense was up and down. They struggled to get a stop early, but they eventually figured it out. I mean, when you look at the drive chart, Stanford goes fumble in the first possession because of Davin Vann. Touchdown. 3 and out, halftime. Touchdown, turnover and downs, interception, punt, turnover and downs, touchdown, punt. They figured it out in the second half, and that's really what allowed NC State to go and pull away. 2 turnover and downs and a pick. Devin Marshall, I tweeted it during the game. I think he's one of the more underrated players on this defense, the way he plays. Villanova transfer. He's a junior. He'll be back next year. He's playing well, and he's in the backup role, rotated in, played extremely well at the pick. But yeah, the defense figured it out. It was one of those things where, yes, it helped, I guess, in a way that they knocked Ashton Daniels out of the game. You never want to see anyone get hurt, but it helped slow Stanford's offense down. Justin Lamson came in the game, was 3 of 8 passing for 103 yards, added, another 25 yards in the ground. But that was the difference. And NC State's defense figured out. You have to give them credit for adjusting to Stanford's style of play. It's an interesting style of play. They do throw the ball a little bit. They run the ball a lot. And NC State's run defense hasn't been that great this year. And so you knew that they were going to be able to run the ball a little bit. They tried to prove that. But overall, I think you got to give credit to Tony Gibson's unit figuring it out in the second half and allowing the offense to kind of pull away. And Sean Brown, Kamal Bonner, 7 tackles each, leading the way.
13 tackles for loss as a team. They were very disruptive. I thought it was a good game for Devon Betty. I thought he was making a lot of quick decisions, flying to the gaps, and making some plays in the backfield. He had 1.5 tackles for loss and a quarterback hurry. I thought he had a really good game. I thought that with the exception of some big plays, the defense it was kind of like a boom or bust day, I'd say, for the defense. They were giving up explosive plays. They gave up 4 passing plays of 15 yards or more. You're stacking the box so much against this team, like that's probably going to happen every now and then. It's understandable. They also gave up 6 rushes of 10 yards or more, and that included, like I said earlier, a 48-yard touchdown run by Daniels and a 67-yard touchdown run by Daniels. So the quarterback run continued to be an issue. Just the rushing game overall is going to be an issue for this team and likely will be moving forward. But I thought, they did enough to win the game, right? They stopped it from getting into a shootout. After the Stanford's first possession of the second half, they really didn't get anything going. I mean, they had that late touchdown, but that was Stanford starters against NC State's like second and third string players. So I wouldn't put much stock into that. NC State gave up 21 points to this team, essentially, is what you have to count it as. And all things considered, that's almost 10 points below the program season average for points allowed in a game. So wasn't a good defensive performance. Like I said earlier, going into the game, it was the matchup between the 2 worst scoring defenses in the ACC. And at points, it looked like that. But they buckled down. They created much more havoc than Stanford's defense did. I think the difference between the 2 defenses was that Stanford's was just consistently giving up chunk plays, and NC State had those boom or bust plays where they did have these huge turnover plays or plays in the backfield that made the difference in this contest. And, they did what they had to do. And I thought the secondary played particularly well as well, especially in a run support role at points. So other than that, Noah, unless you have any thoughts on the defense or the rest of the game in general, let's talk a little bit special teams. Let's talk special teams.
I was gonna bring them up.
We haven't talked a ton about special teams this year because it hasn't been that big of a factor for the Wolfpack, just out of weird trends where they hadn't been able to return many kickoffs. They weren't doing many returnable kicks or punts. So we haven't really been able to talk a ton about special teams. But it was DK Kaufman, man. He was explosive. A 91-yard kick return, another, I think, 45-yarder. So he had a great game. What did you think of the Pack special teams effort?
Yeah, I thought they played really, really well. We talk about DK Kaufman and the fact that he had, 2 really good returns. The third one went, I think, for 30-something yards as well. So 3 good returns you take from a guy like that. We got to look around, right? It's not just him. It's the whole, unit on kickoff return, because in a way that's such an interesting play where it really takes 10 guys to block to open up room for a guy to run and almost break one off like he did. So I think credit to the whole unit. Special teams has been up and down. Todd Gobel's group has been up and down, and for a little bit this year, they figured it out. DK said he watched film this weekend, noticed that Stanford's kick coverage unit isn't very aggressive, and decided to take it to him, and that's exactly what happened. So good credit for everyone around, coaching included. We saw an interesting kicking wrinkle. Colin Smith handled all of the kicking duties over the weekend. We're going to ask more on Monday to Dave Dorn about what the deal with that is. Kanoa Vinesett was present for what I saw. So Colin Smith was 1 for 1 for 23 yards. He made all of the extra points. Also handled all the kickoff duties. So I think credit to him and just being a busy guy, because he was a busy guy. You know who else was a busy person that on Saturday afternoon? Ripken, the tee dog. He had to go get the tee a lot of times after these kickoffs. He did not fumble like he did earlier in the year. I think that may have been the best omen for NC State. Clean recoveries every time.
Absolutely. Just very 0 turnovers, counting Ripken's contributions as well today. I guess there was the 1 interception late in the game. But other than that, flawless day for the Pack and a good special teams day. I agree that the Colin Smith place kicking wrinkle was interesting. We don't know yet if that was a performance-based thing or an injury-based thing. That's something we'll find out about early this week. All right. You talked about DK Kaufman, and I think he's been such a fun player to watch this year. I think he's was a home run addition to this team out of the transfer portal. The energy he plays with on defense and special teams, you can just tell when he goes back for a kick return, he just looks so excited. He looks so excited to run one back. So it was cool to see him break one, and he was making great contributions defensively as well. He's one player that will probably be deserving of a game ball. And that's what we're going to do right now. Let's dive into our weekly game ball segment. Noah, we just like to recognize a few individual performances, regardless of a win or a loss, every single week. And this week, we have plenty of players to choose from, Noah. So give me your first game ball, man.
Yeah, I'm going to go with, there's so many options. It's hard to pick one. I'm going to go with CJ Bailey. I mean, we've talked a lot about him today. He just deserves it. He is obviously their best player on the field. And he's proving to be one of the best young players in college football. And I'm going to make a prediction right now, Ethan. I'm going to say he wins True Freshman All-American at quarterback. I'm going to say he wins ACC Rookie of the Year and keeps that trophy in Raleigh.
I'm trying to think of the other contenders for the ACC one off the top of my head. We didn't do any research for this portion, but
no, I just brought that up my own.
I can't think of anyone. I'm definitely missing someone obvious, but I feel like he has a case, and he is definitely the best true freshman quarterback in the conference. And usually you think that gives him the edge here just off of his position and certainly the numbers he's putting up lately. So I think that's a good take. I think that is. And hey, NC State having Rookie of the Year for 2 years in a row, that'd be something that NC State could point to on the recruiting trail, something they can point to in their locker room and be like, hey, you come here and you can play immediately. So that would be huge for this program. I'm going to give my first game ball to I think I'm going to go with Hollywood. I'm just so impressed by watching him play. The strides he has taken. Again, the way he's just improved and just thrived in his expanded role. Anything that NC State has asked of him, he's done really well, whether that's taking handoffs out of the backfield, whether it's running outside zone or straight up the middle. He's making plays. He's lining up out wide at wide receiver or in the slot or catching passes out of the backfield. He can do it all right now, just like we thought he'd be able to do based on what he did in high school. So I don't know if I expected him to break out as a star this quickly. I certainly expected him to be a really good college football player, but his emergence as a absolute playmaker is huge for this Wolfpack squad. And you asked TJ about it, I believe, in the post-game press conference. It makes it easier for him when there's just makes it easier for the quarterback when there's a consistent running game, and it makes it easier when Hollywood's there as the check down option, and he can take a check down 40 yards if he needs to, right? So I think Hollywood deserves a game ball as well. That is the backfield of the future for the Pack, and a really freaking promising backfield to boot. All right, Noah, give me your second game ball.
You have to go with DK Kaufman. I think he deserves it. He's played well the entire year on defense. First time he's able to use that same skill set on special teams and make it happen. I'll give it to him. He led the team technically in total all-purpose yards at 164 since kickoff return is factored into that statistic. But he's a guy that's played well. He's really good in run defense. He's made some plays in the pass defense as well. And now he's making plays in special teams. He came to NC State for a reason to kind of prove that he can play at the next level. And I think each week he's playing, he's making himself a little bit of money. I don't know if I get drafted, but I definitely think he's earned himself a look at the next level just the way he's been playing.
I'm going to stick in the safety room for my second game ball, and I'm going to recognize Bishop Fitzgerald. I think one of the unsung heroes of the past couple of games. I think he has taken a leap, especially as a run defender. He led the team with 2.5 tackles for loss in this game. And I think he's been good in coverage. Early in the season, he had a few high leverage mistakes where everyone's eyes were on him for the mistakes that he made. The Clemson game was a particularly rough one for him, right? But I think he has gotten so much better over the course of this season. He's playing great football right now. The tandem of him and DK is I'd say one of the better safety duos in the ACC right now. So I'm really, really impressed by how much the senior has continued to grow on the field with the Pack so far. And he was disruptive. 2.5 tackles for loss as a safety, man. That's good. And he was flying to the ball, making tackles. These tackles were in space too. And so shout out to Bishop, man. He had a good day. All right. Noah, next up, Senior Day. Feels weird to say with 4 weeks left in the season, but NC State Senior Day is next week, November 9th. They announced late last night it's going to be a 3:30 p.m. kickoff on the ACC network. So not a noon game, but also I was expecting the 8 p.m. kickoff. And for my sleep schedule, I'm glad it's not. So Wolfpack fans, you get out and tailgate a little bit more, and the Pack will face off in Carter Finley Stadium one more time this season as it tries to build on this 2-game winning streak and maybe finish another regular season, super hot again. All right. Thank you all for tuning in. That's our show for today. We appreciate you all watching, and we'll be back in the middle of the week to talk some basketball and football because it's officially crossover season, folks. Basketball season begins in earnest on Monday. Monday is the men's game. So 2 men's games this week, 2 women's games, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We'll have all the coverage right here on the Wolfpacker.com and the Wolfpacker Show. Go check out the website, and we will see you on Thursday. All right, folks. Talk to you soon.